Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God in Narayan, unto Narayana Rishi, the supreme human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva the author. Shunvatam Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtanaha, Vidyantasto Vajrani, Vedunoti Saritsatam, Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashtapreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatanastiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise through transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. So we have a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, which is itself titled, what is the title of Canto 2? It doesn't even say on here. Okay. I keep forgetting. Creation, I'll say it wrong, so. Anyway, the chapter...
Cosmic Manifestation.
Cosmic Manifestation. And the chapter is Chapter 1, the first step in God realization. And the verse is 16. And I apologize for everybody for me being all insecure, but I always feel insecure when I've been gone for a couple of days and I don't know what I missed and everything. So, anyways. Okay. Grihat. Pravrajito. Dira. Grihat Pravrajito Dira. Punya, Tirtha, Jala Pluta, Punya Tirtha, Jala Pluta, Shucho, Vivikta, Asino, Shucho Vivikta Asino, Vivivat, Kalpitasane.
Kalpitasane.
Vividhat kalpitasane.
Vividhat kalpitasane.
Grihat pravrajito diraha.
Grihat pravrajito diraha.
I'm not supposed to say that extra ha in the end. I did that mistake. It's not the right, it's not the exact end of the line there.
Second one.
Punya tirtha jalaplutaha.
Punya tirtha jalaplutaha.
In case anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, that little H with a dot under it, you only sound that extra syllable that it indicates if it's at the end of a true line. And in the Bhagavad Gita, these are actually 2 lines, but they're broken up into 4 for easy reading. So it's not the end of the line. So only in the second line do you make that little extra sound that the thought under the H is. Just explaining. Shucho vivikta asino.
Shucho vivikta asino.
Vidhivat kalpatasane.
Vidhivat kalpitasane.
Grihat pravrajito dira.
Grihat pravrajito dira.
Punyatirtha jalaplutaha.
Punyatirtha jalaplutaha.
Shucho vivikta asino.
Shucho vivikta asino.
Vidhivat kalpitasane.
Vidhivat kalpitasane.
Is that 3? He's chant. I think that's 3.
Sorry?
Was that 2? Let me do it again. Grihat pravrajito dira.
Grihat pravrajito dira.
Punyatirtha jalaplutaha.
Punyatirtha jalaplutaha.
Shucho vivikta asino.
Shucho vivikta asino.
Vidhivat kalpitasane.
Vidhivat kalpitasane.
Okay, let's chant.
I have a question on H dots.
Yeah.
So is the rule only for the poem or poetry, or also when you read Sanskrit prose, do you also have to not say H dot if it is
I don't know. I know in the word meetings, most of us do say the H sound, the H dot sound in the word meetings because it's just a word separate.
Right.
And the thing is, it's supposed to be a very small sound and it's supposed to get lost a little bit, and it kind of turns into almost a K sound if you do it right, like Grihat Pravrajito Dira Punya, like that. It kind of catches a little bit, it's supposed to be.
So
But,
it kind
it's one of those
like
fine points.
those 2 words kind of like
It sort of makes a little catch. It's almost like a K sound. It's supposed to Dira or something. I don't know what. I'm not a Sanskrit expert, but this is what I heard.
But is that what Vridananda Maharaj suggests to do that?
Vidananda? I don't know.
From whom it came?
All
though,
right.
I probably heard it in more of a circuitous route than directly from him.
Oh, okay.
There are different people who say different things.
Yeah, we all have a different degree of what Sanskrit details we can manage too, you know. I mean, some people do a little more than others, so we do the best we can.
Thank you.
Yeah, but there's a Sanskrit pronunciation guide in the back if you're really stuck, then maybe that helps with some of the, you know, I don't know if it helps your question, but, okay. So, please chant.
Grihat pravrajito dira.
Grihat pravrajito dira.
Punyatirtha jalaplutaha.
Punyatirtha jalaplutaha.
Suchao vivikta ashino.
Sucha vivikta ashino.
Vidhivat kalpitasane.
Vidhivat kalpitasane.
Grihat pravrajita dhira.
Grihat pravrajita dhira.
Punyatirtha jalaplutaha.
Punyatirtha jalaplutaha.
Shucha vivikta asino.
Sucha vivikta asino.
Vidhivat kalpitasane.
Vidhivat kalpitasane.
Grihat pravrajito dira.
Grihat pravrajito dira.
Punyatirtha jalaplutaha.
Punyatirtha jalaplutaha.
Shucho vivikta asino.
Sucho Vivivakanasino.
Vidivat kalpitasane.
Vidivat kalpatasine. Grihat Prarajatira. Punyajita Jalabhutaha. Sucho Vivivakanasino. Vidivat kalpatasine. Grihat Prarajatira. Punyajita Jalabhutaha. Sucha Vivivakanasino. Vidivat kalpatasine.
Anybody else? Okay, word meanings. Grihat,
Grihat
from one's home.
from one's home.
Pravrajita,
Pravrajita
having gone out.
having gone out.
Dhira,
Dhira
self-control.
self-control.
Punya,
Punya
pious.
highest.
Tirtha,
Tirtha
sacred place.
sacred place.
Jala aputaha,
Java Aputa
fully washed.
fully washed.
Shucho,
Sucho
cleansed.
cleansed.
Double clean. Vivikte,
Vivikte
solitary.
solitary.
Asinaha,
Asina
seated.
seated.
Vidivat,
Vivat
according to regulations.
according to regulations.
Kalpita,
Kalpita
having done.
having done.
Asane,
Asane
on a sitting
on a
place.
sitting place.
Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
One should leave home and practice self-control. In a sacred place, he should bathe regularly and sit down in a lonely place duly sanctified. So please repeat. One should leave home
Once you leave home
and practice self-control.
and practice self-control
In a sacred place,
in a sacred place,
he should bathe regularly
you should bathe regularly
and sit down
and sit down
in a lonely place duly sanctified.
in a lonely place duly sanctified.
There you have it, folks. Okay, so, purport. To prepare oneself for the better next life, one must get out of one's so-called home. The system of Varnashram Dharma, or Sanatana Dharma, prescribes retirement from family encumbrances as early as possible after one has passed 50 years of age. Modern civilization is based on family comforts, the highest standard of amenities, and therefore after retirement everyone expects to live a very comfortable life in a well-furnished home decorated with fine ladies and children, without any desire to get out of such a comfortable home. High government officers and ministers stick to their prized posts until death, and they neither dream nor desire to get out of homely comforts. Bound by such hallucinations, materialistic men prepare various plans for a still more comfortable life, but suddenly, cruel death comes without mercy and takes away the great plan maker against his desire, forcing him to give up the present body for another body. Such a plan maker is thus forced to accept another body in one of the 8,400,000 species of life, according to the fruits of the work he has performed. In the next life, persons who are too much attached to family comforts are generally awarded lower species of life on account of sinful acts performed during a long duration of sinful life, and thus all the energy of the human life is spoiled. In order to be saved from the danger of spoiling the human form of life and being attached to unreal things, one must take warning of death at the age of 50, if not earlier. The principle is that one should take it for granted that the death warning is already there, even prior to the attainment of 50 years of age, and thus at any stage of life, one should prepare himself for a better next life. This system of the Sanatana Dharma institution is so made that the follower is trained for the better next life without any chance that the human life will be spoiled. The holy places all over the world are meant for the residential purposes of retired persons getting ready for a better next life. Intelligent persons must go there at the end of life, and for that matter, after 50 years of age, to live a life of spiritual regeneration for the sake of being freed from family attachment, which is considered to be the shackle of material life. One is recommended to quit home just to get rid of material attachment, because one who sticks to family life until death cannot get rid of material attachment, and as long as one is materially attached, one cannot understand spiritual freedom. One should not, however, become self-complacent simply by leaving home or by creating another home at the holy place, either lawfully or unlawfully. Many persons leave home and go to such holy places, but due to bad association, again become family men by illicit connection with the opposite sex. The illusory energy of matter is so strong that one is apt to be under such illusion at every stage of life, even after quitting one's happy home. Therefore, it is essential that one practice self-control by celibacy without the least desire for sex indulgence. For a man desiring to improve the condition of his existence, sex indulgence is considered suicidal or even worse. Therefore, to live apart from family life means to become self-controlled in regard to all sense desires, especially sex desires. The method is that one should have a duly sanctified sitting place made of straw, deerskin, and carpet, and thus sitting on it, one should chant the holy name of the Lord without offense, as prescribed above. The whole process is to drag the mind from material engagements and fix it on the lotus feet of the Lord. This simple process alone will help one advance to the highest stage of spiritual success. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, first thing that's going to jump out for somebody to ask a question about is, how come a deer skin if we're not supposed to kill animals? Well, that's a good question. I don't know the answer, but there are hunters who will hunt, and there will be for meat, and there will be deer skins in the existence, and deer skins are said to help keep the insects away. If you're sitting on a deer skin, the insects don't get you so much. And maybe something like that we'd appreciate to think about fire ants. So I don't know exactly how that works out, that you can sit on a deer skin that came from a deer that got killed, obviously. So, but anyway, that's the reason for it. It's supposed to be because of the insects.
The deer could die of natural causes.
Usually they get eaten by something, and you wouldn't have the skin then. And there aren't that many times you get to stumble across a deer that died because it was sick. Usually something got it. Even if it got sick, it was dying, something got it and ate it. So I don't think we can. A cow, maybe you can figure it's because of that, but a deer, probably somebody had to kill it. But anyway, deer skins turn up in the descriptions. That's all I know. So I'm just saying that much. There are always going to be some hunters, and they're part of society too. I don't know where they fit in that. They're Shudras, if they're in the Varnashram system. But anyway, they're there. They exist. And also the Kshatriyas sometimes go in the forest and kill animals. Some of the Kshatriyas are meat eaters. So were in those days. So that's that one. We would want to sit, if we're going to just sit on a holy place on the ground, we want to have somehow adequate sitting place, because there are bugs like fire ants, and it would certainly ruin your meditation to all of a sudden get stung by fire ants. So you want to avoid that. So this is all about renunciation. And yesterday's was all about renunciation too. What are you holding up the phone for?
It says exactly about what you and both were running.
Okay, you looked it up?
Yeah.
Where'd you
This
look
is
it up?
just one entry. It says the skin is collected from a deer that died from natural causes. So the reason the deer skin is used is because it keeps insects, scorpions, snakes and other creatures away while the yogi is doing meditation.
Where do you find a deer that died of natural causes?
It happens.
Still there.
It happens.
Okay.
In the park up in Michigan, I've seen several.
They were probably killed by hunters and went away wounded.
It's not impossible.
Yeah. So, anyways.
No deer lives forever.
What lives
No
forever?
deer lives forever.
I know, but that deer are a hot item among predators, so
So you have to get there before.
yeah. Maybe there'll be so many deer in the forest dwellers will be familiar with the deer so they know when somebody's dying. Perhaps it happened like that. Because they did live, this is one thing I was going to talk about, in the Varnashram system, intact, in the village system, who was it, Rancho Prime wrote a book about what do you call it?
Ecology.
Ecology and Hinduism, that was it. And he described the traditional village, and I've described it before in class, but it's a good description anyways, that they would practically live in a food forest. Even the village itself would have some food trees and stuff there. It was somewhat like living in a forest, but really all around by a forest, all around is a forest, and there's different kinds of forests. There's the productive forest, and that would be, I think, where the cows can browse, like kind of open spaces where the cows can browse, where there's fruit trees, specifically planted fruit and nut trees, and perennial plants like that are, the forest is a forest, but it's productive. Closer to the village is probably all more controlled and neat and everything. So depending, but then there's the productive forest. There were names for these forests, I can't remember. And then there was the retirement forest, where you go to live as a retired sage or something, as a retired Vanaprastha or something, Vanaprastha person or whatever. You're retired from family life and you're dedicated now to the spiritual life. And so you go to live among others like that in that part of the forest, which is probably kept kind of clear, and the Kshatriyas are supposed to keep it clear of dangerous animals by hunting for them, and the sages and retired persons can live there peacefully in a hut, and not in the village, but not overly far from it, I guess. So because there are stages of retirement, I've read somewhere else that man goes to the forest, but his wife brings him meals until he gradually becomes independent of that. But that's so that the adjustment is common in stages, not drastic. And then he's in there lost, what do I do now? How do I eat? And then he wants to go back home again because he's hungry or something. So it allows stages. And so anyway, and then the other forest is the natural wild forest, and that's for the animals. So there are these different forests in a traditional village. So we can learn from that whatever we can do about it. We can take it within, and things that we take within, they kind of like settle in our subconscious and participate in creative activity, and so we can get ideas for how to make New Talavana more what it can be, and our own lives too. So that's and then of course sannyas means you would maybe even leave that and travel and preach, because you're so independent, so dependent on Krishna, and so conscious of depending on Krishna, so much faith in Krishna, that you simply travel alone and preach. Go to holy places, or go to householders and beg for a little milk or something, and maybe enlighten them, give them some preaching while you're there. So there's different things that Prabhupada said. He said, he did say, work now, samadhi later. He said, retire, don't retire, you're always preaching. He didn't retire, but then he did retire because he was a sannyasi. First he went away from his home and he stayed at a temple as a Vanaprastha person, not in the forest, but at a temple, and gradually adjusted and gradually thought of ways to preach, how to create his preaching, his magazine, then his books, the Jhansi project, the League of Devotees, and he gradually prepared himself to come to America and do his major preaching as a sannyasi, as a fearless sannyasi, dependent on Krishna. He was completely in the Varnashram system in that way. He wasn't outside of it, and though, of course, a devotee transcends the whole thing, too, at the same time. So he was behaving properly in it, and, he was preaching among Americans, and you can't like be a sannyasi who's allergic to any woman on your horizon. So he had to include the women and the girls, but he was transcendental to all of that. So he was a proper sannyasi in the situation, and so it was within the Varnashram system because he was a sannyasi, and then he was retired and not retired in a sense. He never quit. He never quit his books. He never quit working on preaching, which was really, all of it was really hard. It wasn't like a life of ease. He did get servants, and the more he needed them, the more servants he had to help him. So he wasn't like, but that's because he had a huge job to do. And he also wanted to train his servants to carry on. So it was all part of training too. And so that's, but then here we are not striking out, most of us going to strike out and massively preach around the world. We're living at New Talavana, entering, many of us, our old age, and trying to think how we can keep New Talavana going. So all this has to be adjusted according to our situation. We have to learn from it what we can and apply it as we can. And we have to self-examine what are our attachments. We have to have some kind of residence because you can't just live out on the grass. And so we have to have some arrangement for getting clean and for bathroom and stuff like that. We have to have an arrangement for eating. So certain things are required anyway. So, and also we can't just live like people living in the forest, like a sage meditating under a tree because not only because of the winters and the ants, but also because of the people around us that we're preaching to. What are they going to see? A bunch of homeless people sitting under trees? So we have to present something that they can be attracted to. So there's all these considerations we have to do. But in our heart, we have to be practicing on how can we be detaching. Detachment is actually a very important thing to Krishna. And Prabhupada is talking about it all the time. He talks about it. And funny, we sometimes sort of don't realize it because in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna didn't really want Arjuna to detach right now, except for his spiritual understanding. He wanted Arjuna to not retire from his duty, but do his duty. And Arjuna was in the householder ashram. He was in Vanaprastha. He maybe wanted to go and take Vanaprastha. This is too much for me. I'm going to retire. But Krishna did not want him to do that. And so since we take Bhagavad Gita as our primary scripture, we may kind of miss this point of how important renunciation is. It's there too. Arjuna just had to renounce in an invisible way. He had to keep his duty and renounce his attachment to it, which of course you have to do at every stage anyways. That's a principle. But there's a stage of life beyond where Arjuna was being advised to be. And that Krishna goes into that more in the 11th canto, talking to Uddhava. There's a whole Uddhava Gita, where he says the same things he says to Arjuna, but he says more with a lot more emphasis on the renunciation part, instead of do your work part. Because Arjuna was, another thing, he was still in the Grihastha ashram. He wasn't even retired out of the Grihastha ashram yet. So, and of course he was a warrior by Varna. So he was advised to stay in his position in Varnashram, but be detached from it. So we're in different positions at different stages, and we should understand that, how it applies to us. Whatever position we're in, we should work on emotionally detaching from it. And we should work on attaching to Krishna and Krishna consciousness. And whatever necessities we have, practical necessities, we should work on organizing them and arranging them in such a way that as we do our practical things, it's Krishna conscious, that they don't make us forget Krishna. So this we try to do as we live at the temple. Devotees who live at a temple, a lot of this work is done for them because they have temple schedules. They got to arrange their bathing and everything to fit with their schedule in the temple. So then you take a bath not because you want sense gratification of being clean and being attractive to other people, but you take a bath because you got to go to the temple and see Krishna. So that way, a lot of things are like taken care of in the routine lifestyle that's been set up. and taught to us. So, but still in the heart we have to search and see what we can detach from and understand what our attachments are, because it goes deep. It goes deeper and deeper as we keep finding deeper layers of attachment, and it's a big job to go all these layers deep. And it's interesting, in the 11th canto, Krishna gives examples of people who just realized that they were frustrated with material life and developed a feeling of attachment, a detachment. And that was very good. So we don't always develop a feeling of detachment. We should seek that. But I started this train of thought. I had some reason to start this train of thought. I don't know. I hate this.
Is it a runaway train?
It's a runaway train, yeah. Or it hit a log jam, there's a landslide or a log jam or something. Anyways, start somewhere else. And let me look through this. Okay, well, maybe it'll come back to me. Modern civilization is based on family comfort's the highest standard of amenities, and therefore, after retirement, everyone expects to live a very comfortable life in a well-furnished home decorated with fine ladies and children. Of course, the fine ladies are your wife, your grown daughters, or something like that, and grandchildren. So people are so attached to that. In fact, they prepare for retirement by adding on to their home as much as they can. Like one of my brothers, he's got a really nice home. It's got like 3 stories, including the basement part, which is house-like. And then the first story, and then it's got a second story, and it's on top of the hill, so you feel like you're up on the 3rd or 4th story, looking down the hill. And it's really a nice house, and big enough for all his kids, finally. And guess what? Kids are all grown up. They all live in the 4 corners of the country.
He built it, too.
He built the house mostly, yeah. He didn't have no help. He built it. All right, he worked so hard, worked at his job, worked at building this house, and now he's got a great big empty house. And his children are having grandkids in the 4 corners, so he's got to travel to them all the time. So a retirement like that, one has to prepare for. There's all these ads about how do you have enough money for your retirement and everything. Everybody's presenting some kind of solution or something. Get this kind of account, get that kind of business or something, So you'll need so much money for your retirement, because people expect to continue their same quality of life. Actually, an interesting note, my brother and his wife have started to take in foster kids, and they had some Hispanic kids that were affected by the border situation. So they're very involved people. So they're using their house for good. Between travels to visit their grandkids, somehow they're doing this. So anyways, they have to use what they got for some kind of good. And so the politicians also, they get, the older and older get politicians who are successful, they get higher and higher positions. So we've got the oldest people in the highest positions, and they don't want to retire, exactly like it says here. They expect to keep up their standard. They expect they're going to be as nimble-footed in the brain as meaning, quick and able to handle things as when they were young. They expect that they've got wisdom, but maybe they don't. Maybe they just have bad habits accumulated. And maybe they just are being controlled by hidden money and things like that. And they're not, because then they want their comfort. Everybody wants to stave off thoughts of death by keeping everything as comfortable and nice as possible, as if that's going to protect us. And everybody's doing it, and everybody has done it, and everybody's watched everybody do it, and everybody's still doing it. So hanging on to this. And so like Prabhupada said, with this little bit of rather delicious sarcasm, the great plan maker. Death comes for the great plan maker, and he can't do anything about it. So, and my dad, when he died too, he died at work, and all of a sudden he died at 59. All of a sudden a massive heart attack, and he was gone. I was thinking about it a lot at the time. I was thinking how it's kind of humiliating, He was on top of the world. He had a successful business. He was a popular guy, and grandkids and stuff, and store was going good. Everybody liked it, and all of a sudden he's got to just leave a dead body there and leave and go who knows where. And he had no choice in the matter. So it's something to think about, that it just happens, and it says because of accumulated sinful activities, most of these people are meat eaters or something. The four regulative principles broken here and there in different ways. So sinful activities, so they're hanging on and attached to that identity. So they're going to get another body for sure, and they get sinful activities accumulated. So what does that say? Where are you going? That's kind of bad. And nobody has any idea of this, any idea at all. So, and they don't want an idea usually. So they want to just think within the box of this hallucination, this illusion of this lifetime. And whatever thought I had has not come back yet. So.
Your dad visited the Detroit temple.
He went, he saw the temple. He didn't say anything bad about it. He said, I thought the Catholics had a lot of ritual. So that wasn't really a bad thing to say. So he respectfully looked and he saw an arti. He gave a little donation because he saw, in Detroit they have this fate exhibit, and you turn it on and the speaker goes, and there's these like statues that tell the story and stuff, and it's all beautifully done. So he realized, it took some electricity. It's hard to build this thing, so I should give a donation. So he gave a donation. So, and he had some prasadam, and he observed an arti. That's when I, he heard the term Hare Krishna, of course. Best I could do for him. I was only 2 years in the movement when he suddenly died. And everybody told me that that's a time when the family's all confused and you can preach to them. So I went there expecting this, and I saw that actually it was a time when the family was busily padding all the chinks and filling up their illusion. They're busy congratulating themselves on their illusion and talking happy memories and sentimental thoughts, and forget it. There was no confusion going on. I mean, everybody was obviously totally confused to our eyes, but nobody thought so. So if people don't think they're confused, you can't tell them anything. Let's see, anything else to talk about today? Okay, so take warning at the age of 50, take warning of death. And nowadays they say, like 70 is the new 50 or something like that.
Doesn't feel like it.
Huh?
Doesn't feel like it.
What doesn't feel like 70 is the new 50?
No, I'm 70, I don't feel like I'm 50.
Oh, well, there's so many people say that. And what is it? Maybe they say 60 is the new 50. Anyway, people are, a lot of times, living longer and being healthy longer, healthy diets, vitamin pills, all these kind of things, doctoring. So they don't want to, like my dad died at 59, and that seems terribly young to die. But here, Prabhupada says, take warning of death at the age of 50. So at the age of 50, maybe somebody's, at least when they say 50 is the new 40 or something like that. So, or the other way around, 50 is the new 40. So that, you hit 50, you still feel middle-aged and prime of life kind of thing a lot of times. So don't take warning. So still attached, still working for that ideal retirement where you get to maintain your comfort. So even here at the temple, we don't want to have a rural poverty kind of a feel, but if we are detached to the point where we can live simply, which is easier said than done. We have lots of things, lots of attachments and so on. So you should work toward living very simply, because the less stuff you have, the less you have to be attached to. The simpler and less you have, the less attachment there is, the easier it is to practice giving it up in your mind and prepare. So we don't have any place further to go, really, around here. Forests are all owned by people as private property or something. If you go and live in the forest, somebody will come by and say, why are you camping on my property? So maybe they'll call the police. And so we don't have any place else to go to further retire here. I guess we could go live in the woods, but most of the woods around here are like swampy. Most of the woods that are really woods. So we just have to, here we are, and we have to try the best we can to continue our increasing renunciation and detachment from things and simplification of life and turning over more and more of our life to Krishna consciousness. So Is there anything else I need to talk about? It's recommended to quit home just to get rid of material attachment. If one doesn't leave a comfortable situation, detachment needs external show, to convince us. We need to experience externally some of this detachment. So this leaving home, and it sounds maybe terrifying to leave a comfortable situation, sounds maybe terrifying, but when you simplify and you adjust and you get your little routines figured out, your little needs figured out and stuff, then it's not so bad. It's simpler and it's not so bad. So, hand going up already. Let's see. Just kind of glance over. I did say something about practice self-control by celibacy without the least desire for sex indulgence. So that's obviously a lifelong practice in our movement because we have the 4 regs. And it's a big struggle for most people. But one has to practice that and practice it with a determination because that sex desire is the key to the whole thing. Everything, all the other attachments are connected into that one. There's subtle sex, which is desire for, how's it go? Profit, adoration, and distinction. Why is that sex desire? It's subtle sex desire because these are things that go with sex life. Profit, so you can enjoy adoration, people will love you, and distinction, I'm different from other people, I'm better or different or something. So we look for this profit, adoration, and distinction because it's subtle sex life. And so this is why everything that we're doing kind of hooks into all the material attachments to kind of hook into the desire for sex life. And so the sex desire thing. So that's what we have to practice. Celibacy, self-control, control of the mind, all that stuff, big practice. So, okay, I think I talked about everything on there. So, okay, hand is up, yes.
I heard you the vote.
The spouse always has a hand up.
I heard you the vote because I know when you're wrapping things up. I heard a devotee talk about the subtle sex, and he said if you focus on keeping the subtle sex in check, you never find yourself in court and in affairs and fall downs and all this stuff because it starts subtly. You're just like, how did that happen? It started subtly. So is that word? Yeah, I used the word right. So if you watch this, if you watch for sparks, you never have a big fire.
Yeah. We have guidelines. You done?
No.
Oh, go ahead.
Secondly, Prabhupada does not use the word he and him and things like that / he, she. And you see other authors use he. Well, that means women and men. When he says him, it usually means the male. Mm-hmm. And so there is no go to the woods for the woman.
It's true.
And it's that 5th varna. And so...
There is no 5th varna.
Okay, probably.
Well, look at that baby.
I've
seen it expressed that way.
Yeah.
So I don't know, somebody else said it too, I'm not the only one who ever said it.
Krishna didn't say it.
No, he didn't, so we back
It's
up.
a manner of speaking, it's a word you can use. Why didn't
So
you
then
ever?
that means that women aren't in it.
You harp on little details, whether there's 1 or 2 brahmasters, but yet you can freely say there's 5 varnas. That's a big deal. That's a major change.
You're right.
Women don't have.
They're not in a varna.
A varna otherwise.
It's just
they have a varna type, but they don't have a varna. They don't have the responsibility of a varna, but they do have responsibility.
Well, Gokulanarjuna is right. I retract that. Then I think I've heard one of your godbrothers say it, and probably he was saying it in a
joking.
not an
Well, it's an
offensive way.
expression. It's an expression. way to express the concept.
But the women are not really included in that. Then
Yeah.
that's just calling spade a spade.
What?
Entity.
Who's that? What is?
Maybe they're not supposed to be going to.
No.
No, women are not because women are supposed to
have
be
babies.
protected.
Men don't have babies.
Yeah.
And when they
Yeah.
become women, they don't go to the forest either.
So they're taken care of by their elders.
By the sons.
Yes.
So let's call it.
But
Thank
women
you.
don't sit there and live a life of ease. Women have to take care of children and cook and clean and all this kind of stuff and serve their husbands. And that's kind of like across the board for all women, no matter what Varna type their nature is. They don't ever have the responsibility of a Varna. Well, there may be exceptions, and I saw where there could be exceptions, but basically, in the system, they don't have a responsibility of one of the 4 Varnas, because that's men's stuff. To be responsible, to be a Brahmana or a Kshatriya, be a warrior or a administrator or a king or something, to be responsible, to be productive and run a farm or a business to help support not only the family but the community, and to be a Shudra, to be responsible to serve the other leaders. Then a woman has to serve her husband. It's not supposed to be like, I got to find a Varna guy to serve, but she's supposed to be chaste to her husband. So a woman can't have one of these Varnas, yet women are there, and women are also always given a duty, because women have the babies and have the children and take care of the home and take care of the house. So if it's not technically called a Varna, it's just a manner of speaking that it's like a Varna.
I think Anne has a question.
Oh, I can't see everybody's hand. Yeah.
Yeah, this Varna thing I'll have to read more about, because I find it interesting on my spirit path. I did choose a karmic path upon learning where, many times I was in the woods with my kids alone, or even with my newborn baby, left in a canyon for several days alone. It was a 2-hour hike back to the shore in the town in Mexico. And of course, I always look back, and this is like a very important part of my life where I overcame fears. And I'm talking like waking up in the middle of the night and hearing the coyotes circling closer and realizing they're going to come eat my baby if I don't do something. And having to get up, make the fires, and putting on my ankle bells and my belly dance belt so I have protection, in case they come to bite me. And then praying and praying and praying until 2 horses came and circled the camp, But these experiences were so important to me because I wanted to be that warrior. I wanted not to be afraid. I didn't want to be dependent on a man only. Now, if we're dealing with grizzly bears, that's different. I like to have him around and deal with those, but a few coyotes weren't too bad to handle. So I do think maybe there's situations where women do step into that role, with the kids, and they're also the warrior. And many times I'm with a machete on my hip because, with my baby strapped on me, but just in case,
There are. Sometimes it's said as if it's absolute. Prabhupada says it sometimes as if it's absolute rules, and then at the same time, within his books, there are stories, and even in conversations you see once in a while, there are stories of exceptional women. And when he came to the West, he saw that you have to treat women a little different from the traditional Indian thing. And women come in Varna types, the different types of workers. But that's they should marry somebody of the same type, and they can assist him. You did this for a while, but it wasn't like you can live your whole life that way.
Right.
A woman will tend to look for a man to protect.
Yeah.
If you're trying to be independent, you will do it anyway. There's very few women who don't.
I came in when you were talking about, people just sit under the tree, can you live that way, and things like that. Because the winter will come, and there's many times, our family kind of did that, had experience with that, met people that do that sort of thing. And I will say there's such a difference between that and coming here and seeing how service work works, rather than just sitting under the tree and doing nothing. Or some people might, choose to smoke a lot of ganja and sit under the tree or whatever, but they, or maybe do music or something, but coming here into an ashram and seeing service and how we can spend our time, in devotional service, I think makes a lot of difference, because then we're learning, I think, more of the juice of what Krishna and Prabhupada, is the point was giving us of how to be humanity together, not just sit alone under that tree, but come together and work as a community. How do we get the prasadam out? How do we make the temple dance and the temple sing? And how do we make it all happen? That magic, how we all come together. So,
One of the things that Prabhupada said to Arjuna, you may cease from external activities, but the desire is still there.
Prabhupada said that to Arjuna?
Krishna, sorry. Yeah, in the Bhagavad Gita. Well, Prabhupada said it too, but, Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, yes.
So, I'd like to respond. So, the point is that there's a little bit of confusion here, but we're talking about retirement when the man retires from his family life and goes off into the forest. The woman is like a guru. She's the senior, she's the grandmother. She's there to give guidance to the daughter-in-law, to the children. She has a role. It's a maternal role. What is the difficulty? Just as she was just saying that it's in a service community atmosphere, we all have a duty to keep the community together in service. So she has a role. It's different than the man's, but it's more maternal and it's not out there. So, and the other point is I was just thinking, this is a side point. Twice in my life, I've seen deer dead and skinned. It's a very grotesque sight. But I've seen this once here in Picayune, just across the street from where I lived, and there used to be woods there. And one time we were walking our dogs, and we saw a deer that had just been killed, and someone had skinned it.
But somebody had to kill it,
No, accident?
Or else, I don't know. But then I saw 2 deer in Tennessee that I don't know how they died, but they had been skinned. And then someone left them there.
We saw a deer that we saw that the skin was gone. The skin was gone, the head was gone, probably taxidermist was, but the body was there except for one hunk of meat was
I
gone.
never thought of that. I thought it was some kind of satanic ritual. But I was thinking, well, maybe there's some sages coming around here or something.
Well, maybe this shoot an animal and mount it for a wall is kind of satanic. But
some people come across a raccoon and take the tail and stuff too.
So people want parts of the
animal.
But the deer we found, you could see the bullet hole. So
these had no signs of how they had died.
It's a lot of ways.
Yes.
Well, it came to my mind when you were talking about the woman, and the example I was thinking of was with Mimi, even though she was married to Krishna, but she showed her chivalry while holding the reins while Krishna was like giving the arrows.
There's always exceptions given. Women who could do stuff.
And the other thing that came to my mind was I remember hearing a tape, and how Prabhupada gave that understanding that the wife, after nature to be married, it's like natural, it's like a kind of thing, and that whatever the husband is, that's what she'll be, like you were saying, such that the position that she'll have. That's, I don't know, it was a tape.
I can barely hear you talking quieter and
It was
quieter.
a tape I heard from the following Srila Prabhupada. They had lectures on it, and Prabhupada was making that point that a woman, like you were saying, doesn't have this divine. But because when she's married, that whatever that person, the husband is in, then she naturally has that.
But that's why we select carefully who she marries, because women have types. Women come in types also. Women aren't all alike. So women come in types, and some are studious, and some are organizational and ready to fight, and some are ready to defend. Some are business-like or love gardening or farming. Some are like that. So different skills. So if you put them with a husband who's like the same, then they can actually work together more easily. Yes.
If we analyze further on this, chapter talks about this illusory energy of matter is so strong, and it has a warning about our association. Because even if you come to a holy place, many persons leave home and go to such a holy place, but due to bad association, and it seems like a bad association can put you in a dangerous position. Again, they become family man by illicit connection with opposite sex. The illusory energy of matter is so strong that one is apt to be under such illusion at every stage of life, even after quitting one's happy home. So you can go to the holy place and have issues too.
There's a lot in the holy places in Vrindavan. There are Sahajiya personalities. If you start hanging out with them, then you may, start pushing on the rules a little bit yourself eventually, because you have a different philosophy then. So, There are examples of women. There's somewhere in the Bhagavatam, it's like all these genealogical histories and so on. Some great personality had 2 daughters who were highly intelligent and knew all the Vedic literatures or something. So I don't know who it was, where it was. I have it written somewhere, but anyways, all things are possible. A woman can be a warrior, a woman can be. These things happen, but mostly there's guidance for, and mostly women, even who are somehow exceptional, there's still some psychology in them. Mostly they're still looking for a husband, So better to have one than be looking for one. And then who knows who you find by yourself and under what circumstances. Yes.
Yeah. A couple of comments, but not related to the Panchavarna controversy. One is I've been to many
Panchavarna.
Panchavarna.
Controversy.
The Bhagavatam.
In ISKCON there is many controversies. But I've been to many birthday parties where the person celebrating birthday was more than 60 in the United States. And it's the common saying was that life starts at 60. I don't know if you heard that before.
Yeah.
And then in the forest land that's owned by National Park Services, you can actually make a tent in one place, but you can only allowed to stay that place for, I think, continuously for 2 or 3 weeks, or something between 2 and 3.
It's 2 weeks.
Is it 2 weeks?
Yeah. And then you just
then you can move. So there is a way to do Vanaprastha, and in a traditional way also. And also in the United States there is less fierce animals like tigers, lions are not here. There are some snakes and some big bears are there, but so there is less number of fierce animals. So in terms of that, it's more.
But our forests are less pious also. There's less food, less fruit trees and stuff in the forest, so it's harder
to survive.
In that way. Yeah, you have to have connections. You have to have your Social Security payment, and you got to have a bank somewhere. So we maintain these little attachments. Sannyasi is supposed to be civilly dead. I don't know if any of our sannyasis are that, because they will have their own bank account so that they can function in this world, move around and preach. How do you move around and preach? If you just have to walk, well, Bhakti Charu did, but he actually had a support person helping him. Bhakti Charu Swami. He walked across Canada and preached, but he had a support person, so he was dependent on the system also. So it's very hard to do this, actually. Bhakti Mark, I'm sorry, yes, you're right. That's why he didn't respond. So that's why I'm getting this, not like a response, because I said something wrong, So, so we have, it's all tied up. Everything is so controlled. The woods are controlled, the economics are controlled, the food system, so everything is so controlled that we kind of have to do it here at the temple if we're going to be that kind of renounced. And then we have to also dedicate, part of our renunciation is to keep the temple going. So it's different, kind of.
So the application is go to the holy place, the temples, the farm temples, and watch our association.
Well, I guess that's a general application.
Yeah. Don't let subtle sex throw us off our path.
There's a lot more devotees who are approaching old age than can come and live in the holy places. So, and a lot of them don't want to. A lot of them are protecting their retirement. But some go to India and they can do it there.
Make your home a holy place.
So, anyways, these are principles, and one has to figure out how to apply them. The least defined ashram in ISKCON is the Vanaprastha ashram. But that may be not because we have yet to define it. Prabhupada defined it possibly the least. He described it this way, that way, but he didn't give so much compared to the others. And maybe it's because at this point we're supposed to know how to create it. By the time we're entering Vanaprastha, there's many individual ways to do it. And different people have different needs of how to do it, different abilities, so different situations. So it's the least defined and it's the most possible to be creative, but you gotta apply the principles. You gotta know the principles. So, anything else? Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you very much. And if I said
Thank
anything
you.
wrong, I'm sorry, but I tried not to.
Jai.